Hello, Commissioner.
How are you? Nice to be with you today.
I am wonderful. I'm so excited for this conversation. Everyone that knew that I was going to get a few minutes chatting with you was really jealous. So I'm excited for the stories I'm going to hear. I'm excited just to get to know you a little better.
Good. Well, I am too. I've been looking forward to it. You know, I
So,
was thinking, getting ready for today, that I've been a member of the Greater Milwaukee Committee now for 53 years.
wow.
So we've been through a lot. I've seen a lot, and and I look forward to our conversation.
53 years is a fantastic amount of experience. And, you know, I just have to ask you, over those 53 years, you have seen our city change dramatically. You've seen, you know, crises and emergencies come and go. How do you respond in this moment to this pandemic? How do you understand how we'll see our way through this?
Well, Milwaukee has always had a remarkable resiliency, always been able to surmount anything. I mean, I can go back even further, back in the 40s when we had polio scare, which I remember as a kid, couldn't go out of our house, and it was very scary. But each crisis, whether it's a health crisis, sociological crisis, political crisis, whatever, Milwaukee has a great, as I said, resiliency to it, an optimistic note to it. And there isn't a doubt in my mind that they'll survive this and go on to bigger and better things. I really mean that. There's no question. It's history. I'm a history major, now a history professor, so I love history. History is a great teacher. And the fact of the matter is that I have no doubt in my mind, and not a scintilla of doubt, that Milwaukee will survive this and go on to greater growth and greater things.
You know, thinking about the role of the GMC in uh, in this moment, how would you advise us to, you know, help membership find their way to supporting the city as it recovers?
Well, you know, I've always looked at the GMC. You know, I started the GMC when I was very young, just a young kid who had a dream about getting a baseball team. And Rudy Schenecker was then the executive director of the Greater Milwaukee Committee. And Irv Meyer and Ed Fitzgerald and Bob Young, and everybody thought this is the organization I should belong to because it's the key organization. To this day, I believe that really, if in terms of leadership, getting things done, the Greater Milwaukee Committee is still the best hope that we have, and they've lived up to that. I want to say that. I have a selfish view because they played a very dynamic role in helping me get a team. I get often all the credit, but there were people, and it was through the auspices of the Greater Milwaukee Committee that we really returned Major League Baseball to Milwaukee. And now that's why I'm forever grateful and forever loyal to the GMC. Even during the Miller Park controversy, which was a controversy to say the least, I constantly kept turning to the GMC. And the GMC was extremely helpful. I've watched in many instances, and in the end, to me, if you're really trying to get something done in Milwaukee, you need the GMC to be an integral part of that. And that's, in my history of the last 53 years, confirms that over and over again.
Well, my history certainly isn't as long or as storied as yours, but in the time that I've been in Milwaukee and connected to the GMC, I have seen sufficient evidence to convince me of the same thing, that uh, this extraordinary collection of leaders are our best hope for seeing our way through the crisis. So, you bring up uh, one of your most significant achievements, which was bringing baseball back to Milwaukee. Well, right now there's no baseball. So help us understand what's going to happen. What do we do without baseball, and how do we get it back?
Well, I'm struggling like millions of other people are. I've talked to a lot of people today and the last few days. It's difficult. It's just really difficult. I got here in spring training early and everything was so rosy and Brewers looked good. And all of a sudden, on March the 12th, it was over, just like that. And with a suddenness that was alarming. Since then, of course, it's been quiet. But they are working on a lot of things. There was a big story about how they divide up into 3 divisions. I happen to like it because it's geographical realignment, which I've been for the last 25 years. But that's to save travel costs. But the Brewers are in with the Cubs and the White Sox and the Cardinals and the Twins. Oh, it's a great division. And I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that events happen so that we can have spring training in June and hopefully start a season in early July. Now that's yet to be determined, but I'm hopeful, and I think this would be a great format. There are many questions that the health experts are going to have to answer, whether we play before fans or not. I know in Milwaukee, we have a high level of optimism that Brewer fans are great. I mean, everybody says their fans are great, but I'm telling you, when in a market of this size, you can draw almost 3 million people. Everything that I dreamed about back in the 60s and early 70s has come true. This is a great franchise with unbelievably loyal fans. You asked me a question about Milwaukee. The loyalty of these people through thick and thin is just remarkable to watch. And it tells you a lot about Milwaukee. So I think we could draw people, but that's going to be up to the health experts. We might start playing in empty stadiums and go from there. But hopefully you'll have baseball and I'll have baseball before the summer.
Would you care to make a prediction about the future of baseball? Do you think the timing of seasons might change permanently? What do you see for the new normal?
Sure, I know, there are people that worry about this, that, and the other. We have grown and drawn beyond any dream that I could have had back in the 60s and 70s. And the sport today is unbelievably popular, and it'll get more popular. So once the pandemic is done, I'm very optimistic about the future.
I like hearing that. So, Commissioner, I have to be honest with you. Obviously, I know about you as a legend. I know about you as a leader, but I have never had the opportunity to hear firsthand you tell the story of how you brought baseball back to Milwaukee. And I think this is a perfect moment for you to share that story from the perspective of leadership, because that moment of your extraordinary leadership is a fantastic case study for what we need right now. Would you mind kind of telling us that story?
Well, I can say in the retrospect of history, if I knew that the odds were stacked so against me, I don't know, but I was young. I had a dream. And I was lucky because GMC people, and that was the vehicle. There were others. I had made friends with Edmund Fitzgerald, who was chairman of Cutler Hammer. And his father had been chairman of Northwestern Mutual. And Bob Eline, Schlitz, and many other things. Irwin Meyer, who was the chairman of the Journal Company. And this was all through the Greater Milwaukee Committee. And they became my associates. Ben Barkin, who was a friend of mine. And there are many others I'm forgetting. Irv Meyer, for instance. This was a great lesson for future generations. This was a civic thing that everybody got behind. And it showed when people worked together with fierce determination, that I wasn't going to fail. It took a long time, 5.5 years. A lot of disappointment, taught me a lot about tenacity, taught me a lot about, but it's a great lesson for the future for many things. Community came together, especially amongst leadership. Fans, of course, were there to begin with. American League expanded, nothing. I brought the White Sox to Milwaukee. I kept working, brought a game to Milwaukee, but sold out, which is a story of the summer. But the National League expanded. We lost by 1 vote after 1.5 years. And by the way, Irv Meyer and Bob Eli and Ed Fitzgerald never missed a meeting that I asked them to go to. And so the story of leadership and how aggressive you had to be, and of course I lived it my whole life, but the lesson to be learned for the future, and this is why I keep going back to the Greater Milwaukee Committee, because it was through that as a vehicle that all this happened, started. And we thought we had the White Sox bought. That fell through. So I learned a lot about how to deal with disappointment, how to fight back, what leadership is really all about. And of course, on the night of March 31st, 1970, at 10:15 in the evening, I got a call from Lloyd Larson, who was the sports editor of the Milwaukee Sentinel, who beat my lawyers to the punch by saying to me, "You got it," and hung up because he had to go to press. And I remember the feeling of satisfaction I got that night. And of all the people that had helped, I was really grateful. And I get too much credit, I guess, because there are really a lot of people that I met. This Irv Meyer, for instance, never missed a meeting. I took him everywhere. And Ed Fitzgerald once said to me kiddingly in about 1968 or 9, "Buddy, you ever going to let us up here? I mean, when does this end?" I said, "It'll end when we have a team." And they were great. So were there lessons to be learned? You bet. Leadership is often painful. But if you know, as I said when I was the commissioner, and I said this a lot, you know in leadership that whatever you do, somebody's going to be mad. You can't worry about that. You got to worry about doing the right thing, and you just have to go do the right thing. And in my commissionership, it all worked out well, and it certainly worked out well with the Brewers. Even Miller Park, when you think about that. I had many community leaders say to me at that time, and that's again, the GMC was wonderful. Why do you take all this abuse? Why do you take all this abuse? And why do you do that? And my daughter took a lot of abuse, and it was a painful, really painful. One night with 5 of them in our car, we had a terrible meeting. And I said to them at that time, we're gonna get this thing done. This is tough. Time to get angry and holler, scream, but it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is getting a ballpark built for the future generations of Milwaukeeans and Wisconsin. And look how it's worked out. My goodness gracious. I couldn't have written a script half this good. So we asked the question, there's so much involved and so much history that needs to be told so that the next generation and the generation after that learn. If you want something, if you believe in something, then you got to fight for it. And you got to make sacrifices. And the sacrifices is sometimes yourself. But it worked out great. And now you not only have a team here, but you're playing in one of the great ballparks in America. And it's been great for Milwaukee and Wisconsin.
Amen to that. Wow, that story is every bit of wonderful and inspiring as I've ever heard that it
You know, I'll leave you with one thing. You know, and I could go on here all day. We lost out to the National League in May of 1967. And it was really 9, 10 o'clock in the evening, really stunning, really disappointing. Thought we had it won. And I walked the streets of Chicago the rest of the night. 2 baseball writers, Bob Wolf and Lou Chapman, both of them were gone, followed me the whole night. Now they said they were worried about me, but I didn't know what was happening. I was so disappointed, and I thought maybe the thing is over. We had the White Sox play a game that night against Baltimore, Milwaukee, so I had to get back. But then one thing after another happened, and I mean, the odds were really against us. But it worked.
You persevered, and it worked.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Took a long time after that, but it worked.
You know, one of the things that I know you've done recently is shown your support for Pete's Market. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the GMC was very involved, and I got to give her credit. I was on the phone talking to Julia Taylor, and she told me about this thing, and the young lady who was involved in it, and I said, gee whiz, wouldn't that be wonderful to be helpful? You know, some people think, I've watched this a long time, that philanthropy and other things are sort of a pain in the neck, pain in otherwise you know where, but I'll say pain in the neck. I don't look at it that way. I've always looked at it as, you got to be grateful you're in that position. That's what you should think. So here we are in the midst of this crisis, and Julia tells me, and this young lady gets the phone, and I said, that's an answer. I'd like to be a part of it. And that's as simple as that. And grateful to have that opportunity.
Commissioner, you are an awesome person to talk to. I'm going to let you go in a minute, but I just have to ask you.
Okay.
Since there is no baseball to watch, what are you doing? Or what are you reading? What are you listening to? How are you keeping yourself busy?
Well, it's painful. I work a lot, and we do a lot of things that I just finished a book, another book I love. I'm a history buff, obviously, history professor. So I just finished a book on last years of the Second World War, which fascinates me, especially Franklin Delano Roosevelt, but wonderful book by Nigel Hamilton. And now I'm reading a history book on the Kennedys. So I plus the work that I do every day and talk on the phone and try to keep busy. It's tough time. I mean, there's no question about it. But like everything in life, you have to be and make the best of the situation. And that's what I'm trying to do.
I am so grateful for you making some time to talk to me this morning. It's been fantastic meeting you. I'm excited for us to meet in person so that we can talk about Franklin Roosevelt. He's one of my favorite presidents.
Oh, good.
And we're in a time that would be familiar to him, I feel. So I'll be excited
Well, I
to
think,
see.
right, you know, one of the correct historical analogies is comparing this to the Second World War. I mean, it was a painful, and that went on, by the way, for 4 years. And but there's no question when he mobilized the country and got things going in the right direction, it's an amazing story. And we were suffering there for a while, getting beat both in the Pacific and in Europe by those bums. I may say that, I could say worse, but they'll call them bums for this. But he mobilized the economy and did really remarkable things. So the odds were stacked against him too. So that's and he came.
And that recovery and that that success is now such an integral part of our culture, and baseball was there too.
Well, that's right, no question about that. But I want to say to you again, in all the stories I tell about things that happened, Milwaukee really has a remarkable history for a city of its size, and I'm very proud of that. And again, I say this to you because it's a fact. Greater Milwaukee Committee was really a crucial part of all.
With that, we'll end. Commissioner Selig, thank you so much for your time. It's been fantastic talking to you. We at the GMC are incredibly proud to just be associated with you and count you as a member.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure, and I look forward to meeting you. We can talk some more about history.
Excellent. I love it.
Take care of yourself. Stay healthy.